sure that your every utterance is heard well, completely, over the recordings, okay? The Historic Preservation Commission is a 9-member board appointed by the City Council and serves on a voluntary basis without compensation. The purposes of the commission are to promote the educational, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the city through the preservation and protection of buildings, sites, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and interest through the preservation and enhancement of local historic architectural, archaeological, and aesthetic heritage found in the city, through the maintenance of the distinctive character of the city's historic districts, and through the promotion and enhancement of the city's historic and aesthetic attraction to tourists and visitors. Before we have our introduction of our other members, I would just like to say that I would appreciate if we all pause for a few moments while we pay respect to two persons in our community who have passed. One is former City Councilman Sidney Williams, and the other is Dr. Darren Moulton, retired but longtime chairman of the Department of History and Political Science at Alabama State University. If it's not in violation of your creed, if you just join me in 10 seconds of silence. Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to ask each of the other commissioners to introduce themselves. And since we have one new commissioner here this afternoon, and we have several other commissioners who are here for only their second meeting, I would just like to ask each commissioner to spend 15, 25 seconds saying a little bit about yourself and why historic preservation is so important to you. So let's start from my right and the audience left.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Smetley. I am the owner of Tours of Montgomery. It's a local souvenir shop, and I feel that it is in my best interest and the interest of the city of Montgomery that I serve on this commission, because I am in a very historical neighborhood. A lot of history took place there. It's called Centennial Hill, and so that is a true passion in my heart to preserve the history of Centennial Hill.
Good evening. My name is Brennan Parker. I'm a realtor with Paramount Properties. We do property management as well. I live in Cloverdale, Idlewild. I've lived in the greater Cloverdale area for 20 years now. Also get involved whenever I can with Old Alabama Town. So those two areas and interest have is one of the reasons, I guess, that I want to be on this committee and learn more and help our city preserve history, especially in the buildings.
Kamala DeBartoleben.
I'm Howard Robinson. I went to school here at Alabama State University. I wrote a thesis in my master's program on Centennial Hill, and I wrote a dissertation on the impact of desegregation on Montgomery, Alabama. I have conducted tours of Montgomery for, I guess, about 20 years, so it's along those lines. I've written on a number of important figures and focused on student activism in and around Montgomery during the Civil Rights Movement, and very interested in preservation. On Alabama State's campus, I've worked with the Nat King Cole House and the Ralph David Abernathy House museums, and so have a long-standing interest in historic preservation.
Carol King, Landmarks Foundation.
Keelan Adams, Montgomery Deep History.
Ella Martin, Landmarks Foundation in Old Alabama Town.
Vincent Hall, I live in the Peacock Tract on the west side of Montgomery. I have an interest in preservation and the overall well-being, not just of my community, but of the city. I think proper preservation can lead to economic development for communities. So privileged to be here with all of you.
Okay, thank you very much. As we proceed along our agenda, I think every one of you have received a copy of our minutes of our, excuse me, December 10, 2024 meeting. The chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption of those minutes.
I move that we adopt the minutes as printed
Okay,
for the December 10th, 2024 meeting.
okay,
Second.
all right. Okay, it's been moved and properly second, and I have just one or two comments I'd like to make about the minutes. Sean, if you will, if you look at your minutes for the December 10 meeting, you will see that we have here that the South Hull neighborhood was bordered on the north by Fairview and on the south by Edgemont. Sean, I'm thinking that is reversed, am I correct?
No, I think that is correct.
Yes.
So the north, it should be,
The north should be Edgemont and the south should be Fairview.
yeah, the north side would be Fairview Avenue.
Yes.
And
Just
then the
wanna make
south
that-
would be Edgemont.
Right, just want to make that observation. Okay?
right.
That being said, everybody understand where we are? Okay? Any other unreadiness? All those in favor of adopting minutes as the changes are made, let it be known by a show of hands. Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the election of officers, vice chair, and chair. The chair will now entertain a motion for nomination for vice chair.
Carol King.
Okay, Carol King has been nominated for vice chair. Any other nomination? Once? Twice? Carol King is the only person nominated for vice chair. So let's go and vote anyway for those naysayers, so nobody can have anything to say about it. All those in favor of Carol King for vice chair, let it be known by a show of hands. Okay, thank you very much. Carol, would you like to say a few words?
I appreciate the support. I didn't see that one coming so quick, but we'll continue to work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, the chair will entertain a nomination for chair.
Dr. Bailey.
Once?
Dr.
Yeah.
Bailey.
Okay, Richard Bailey. Any other nomination? Okay. There be none, as we did with Carol. All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Okay, thank you very much. Motion carried. Looking at our agenda here, award ceremony for approved Fall 2024 commemorative plaque applications. I don't see any of the recipients here, so Sean, I'm going to call off the names and you can take it from there. We'll start with Christopher Stokes, Cottage Hill, 537 Martha Street.
Yeah, so the folks for these residences are not present. So I'll just kind of go through the recipients here. It's Christopher Stokes, 537 Martha Street. This is for the Cottage Hill Historic District. Then we have Stephen Bernero and Erika Anderson, 1451 Watson Avenue in Old Cloverdale. And then Kevin and Marissa Bourke, 711 Ponce de Leon Avenue in Cloverdale, Idlewild. So I will reach out to these folks, and we have the plaques available, so I'll just have them come by the office, and they can pick them up at their convenience.
Right. Sean, would you just raise up one of those plaques to show the audience and our commission what they look like? Thank you very much. Historic significance and integrity tutorial plus training resources. Sean, you want to take the lead on that?
Yep. So I wanted to go through some basically like sort of training resources here. So I've included a couple of links that you all can click on at your convenience and kind of read through these materials as well. But I just wanted to go through some of this so that we can effectively consider the requests that we get for these plaques, and then we have two on the next item here to reconsider. So I wanted to go through some of this information first. So generally, local historic designation is done by ordinance, by a local government, and this is where buildings are actually protected from inappropriate alterations. This is done via the police power of local law, whereas state and national registers are more honorary status that is given, and they only provide limited protection, such as consultation in the case of planned federal undertakings that will have an adverse effect upon historic properties. So nevertheless, many of the principles for local historic preservation are based on the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. These standards include, in a hierarchical order, preservation as kind of the top level. Then you have rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. And so there's a training link here, working on the past in local historic districts. So again, at your convenience, I would appreciate if each member would, click on this link and go through the sections that I'm calling out in the agenda packet here. So section D is fitting your work to time and place, and that details the 4 treatment standards, so you can understand what each standard refers to and the kind of things that are done under that standard. And then local historic districts, and it has an overview of what historic preservation commissions typically do in sections A through C. So it's a 4-part training. So that's one. And then wanted to go in, when we're considering historic buildings, preservationists typically think of 2 things. This is significance, historic significance, and then integrity. Significance really outlines why the building was important in the past, and then we also usually assign a time frame known as a period of significance. And that details when the building achieved or exhibited the historic significance that we're calling out there. The historic significance and period of significance are usually defined and described in a statement of significance. So this is usually like in a paragraph format. And then meanwhile, within the National Park Service parlance, there are 7 aspects of integrity. This is really what I wanted to focus the most on with you all here. When we are considering a plaque application, what we're really focused on is going to be integrity. Can the building convey its historic significance? And so those aspects of integrity include location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. And then if you keep going down on the agenda here, it has the definitions of each one of those. I won't read through each one, and some of them are kind of self-explanatory. Location, that's the place where the property was constructed or the place where the historic event occurred. Design is how was the building designed, and so forth. So those are the aspects that we're really looking at to see, does a building, still convey the significance that it was designed to inhabit there, or exhibit rather. So when we receive these applications, again, that's really what we're going to be looking for. The significance part of this will virtually always be established already. It'll already be a building on our local register, so we don't need to worry so much about the significance piece. It is really the integrity. Has the building been altered in such a way that it can no longer convey its significance? That's what we're really looking for. The Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation indicate that that's the primary treatment standard that the ARB applies when reviewing alterations. So we have that as sort of a filter for alterations that are happening. So it, in an ideal world, any alteration should be done appropriately, considering that review process. So that's explained a little further in Section D of the Working on the Past training. Rehabilitation reflects a property's continuum over time. While emphasizing the retention and repair of historic materials, more latitude is provided for the replacement of deteriorated and missing features. Alterations and additions for an updated use are acceptable so long as they are compatible with the historic character. So alterations can be done, and that's, it's okay for that to happen. We just want to make sure that it is compatible with the original design, the original materials, the original workmanship, those aspects of integrity that I referenced earlier. And then moving on a bit here to architectural character itself. Character really refers to the visual aspects and physical features that comprise the appearance of every historic building. So character-defining elements include the overall shape of the building, its materials, craftsmanship, decorative details, interior spaces and features, as well as the various aspects of its site and environment. So the character-defining features helps define the building's visual identity. And you also will note that those aspects of character-defining features are closely aligned with integrity. The shape of the building and decorative details are part of its design, materials, and craftsmanship, and those are both elements of integrity. Site and environment correspond with location, setting, and feeling. Therefore, when character-defining features are altered unsympathetically, this can detract from a historic building's integrity or its ability to convey significance. And a couple of examples of character-defining features are decorative half-tempered wood on Tudor-style homes. And then another example would be classical columns supporting elaborate entablatures on Greek Revival style buildings. And then on the next page, I have a couple of models for those features as well. Mike, if you could go to, on the agenda, it's page 4 to show those models. That would be great. And so this on the top one is Tudor Revival style building. And the half-tempered wood are the sort of decorative parts up underneath the gables there, and on the sort of middle band on that building. So that's a Tudor Revival style building, and then below that would be a Greek Revival style building there. So I just wanted to go through some of that information about character-defining features, how to identify them, and these training links will give you all a little bit more experience as well with going through this sort of analysis to see, do the original design features still appear on a building, right? When I get an application, I will go out and take photographs. I'll assemble a bunch of information for you all and to see that. And so what we're really looking at is, is sort of a checklist, and I have some additional documentation for that as well, where you all can go through and basically check off, does this feature still exist? Is it there? Has it been altered unsympathetically? So those are the kind of things that we want to look for moving forward as we're evaluating an application for a commemorative plaque on a residence. And so, Mike, if you can keep scrolling down to page 5, here are the actual guidelines that we have for awarding commemorative plaques. So I will attach this again whenever we get to the twice yearly review. When we have a committee for a review, I will attach this with it as well with each application. So these are the guidelines that have been established by this board in the past. And so these are the things that we're looking for, and there's acceptable and unacceptable. So if we see that things are in that unacceptable category, then that's where that's a bit of a red flag that we may want to consider, whether or not it should be given a plaque. And then if we keep going down a little bit further to, let's see, page number 10, I just have an example building here. This is 484 South Perry Street. This is the building which is owned by the Alabama Historical Commission. They're based out of this building, and it is individually designated It's a Greek Revival style building from 1848, and it's got the Ionic columns, full facade entry porch, and then marble or stone steps. It's got a wooden door with a fan light surrounded by an entablature, wood-clad 6/6 light double-hung sash windows, and other features outlined here as well. So just wanted to kind of give an example of a report. This is the part that I will submit to you all. And then following this, as we go down to page 14, there will be an evaluation form. So I will provide the evaluation form to you as well. And I've already kind of done this one as an example. And so I've gone through, this is basically the evaluation of the guidelines that I showed earlier. So you can go through and basically check these off, each feature, and see, is it still there? Is it appropriate or is it inappropriate? And then we will have, there's a section, I don't think it made it onto this example, but we've actually modified this form. At the bottom, it will have, when I send this to you all, it'll have a space where you can actually you can come up with your recommendation. So it's a yay or nay. Do we think that the building deserves a commemorative plaque? And so it'll have some space where you can fill that out. Again, I don't think I mentioned it's a subcommittee. There's typically a three-member subcommittee that reviews these applications twice yearly. And so we just wanted to tighten up the review process a little bit. And I hope that these resources and explanation can help with that. And we'll have, again, a space where you can actually talk as a group, as a subcommittee, figure out what your recommendation will be, and then you come back to the board, and the full board will take a vote at that point. You want to consider what the committee says, and come to a consensus, and then we'll make a decision on the application. Does anybody have any questions or anything you want to ask on this?
Any questions? Comments?
We had sort of a calendar, but now since we're going to bi-monthly, that might have to be altered a little bit. I think March 1st was the next deadline, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. March 1st is typically the deadline for the spring round of review. I've only received one application. I think it's actually incomplete, so I'm kind of waiting on the rest of the information for that. So I will look at the calendar to kind of see, how that works with the bi-monthly meeting schedule. But I think that we can still work it out. We still have the meeting in June and in December, which is the award ceremony. But we will need to make sure that we're able to basically make the decision prior to that meeting. It would be the meeting before that. I'll look at that a little bit closely and see how that fits in. But I think it'll still work out. But if we need to change some of the dates, then I may need to adjust the application deadline for that. So I'll kind of look at that, and I can follow up with the board once I look over that a little bit further.
Okay, thank you very much. As you see on your agenda, number 5, Reconsideration of Fall 2024 Commemorative Plaque Application. Board vote to approve or deny. I've talked with Sean regarding an explanation of why these are appearing for February, and what I'd like for you to do is to listen to his explanation for their reappearance, and we will vote based on what he tells us. Let's start with 2412 College Street.
All right, so for this one, we at the last HPC meeting, or the one before that, we did a motion to deny this particular plaque based on the fact that I had it listed as aluminum siding. That was my error. The owner contacted us when she received a letter and with the denial decision, and she indicated that it is actually a wood siding there. It's Dutch lap siding, which I believe is actually the original design and materials for this house. So I told her that we would put it back onto the agenda If we could get one of the members here to make a motion to reconsider, then we would do a motion. If you all think that that's okay, then we would do a motion to approve it based on the new information that we have there.
Okay. Now,
Just the
first of
yellow
all, is there anyone who has a question regarding the explanation you just heard?
This one was the yellow one with the white trim?
No, it's the one before that on College Street. It's let's see, this is more of a colonial revival style house.
Do we have a picture of it?
Page
Yeah,
7.
picture would be on page 17.
Oh, okay, it's on page 17. Thanks. Thank you.
Any other question
Were,
regarding his explanation?
were
Yes.
the windows at question too? Or
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it just
This is
the
College
siding?
Street. Yeah, that's Cottage.
can't-
The windows were, I don't think those were a question about it. The issue that, that was brought up was the siding. Yeah, because I had it listed erroneously as aluminum siding.
Are we clear? Any other question? Are we clear on the reason it was denied at our January meeting? The application was denied. Okay. All right. The chair would now entertain a motion that we approve this application.
Sean, I thought you had to reconsider first.
Reconsider, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, so because we've already taken action, it will require a motion to reconsider, and then we'll do a motion to approve if that's okay with you all.
All right. Motion to reconsider.
I make a motion that we reconsider.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by show of hands. Motion carried. All right, thank you. Now comes the vote to approve. Chair will now entertain a motion.
I move we approve 2412 College Street for a historic commemorative marker.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, second. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. Thank you very much. And now, 623 Martha Street. The explanation.
So for this one, I believe we didn't actually make a motion, or we may have tabled it, I think is what happened for this one. And so, this one is basically still on the floor for you all to consider. The subcommittee had met last year. You all can speak on it as well if you'd like to the full board. And we just are at this point just seeking a decision on whether to award a plaque for this property.
Okay, but we still need to reconsider first, am I correct?
No, for this one, there has not been a decision. It was only tabled.
Sure, okay.
So.
All right. The chair will now entertain a motion.
Okay, what the issue was, we wanted to wait on you. So you can look at it because this house has had
Yes, I
numerous
understand.
of moderations.
That's what he told me. Yes, okay.
So we
All
needed your input.
So I will look at it, and when we come back, we will go from there. Do you all want me to look at it right now?
I don't want to rush anyone that's uncomfortable or not ready, but this has been, delayed somewhat. It was from the fall last round of review. If we're able to come to a consensus, then it would be great if we're able to do this, the motion for this one tonight.
Okay.
And one more thing, are they still satisfied with it being Cottage Hill as opposed to Patton House?
Yeah, that's, the Patton House request is, not eligible.
Okay.
So, if we do approve this one, the only eligible name will be Cottage Hill to be reflected on the plaque.
I think that my concern on this particular one was the clipped gables, the very front where the gables have been, I don't know if you call that clipped or not, but they've lost their point on both the front and the side that you can see from the other picture, the older picture, which was that was before the lattice was added. So the picture, the other picture that you see, it says the 1980s, and Cottage Hill became a historic district in the 1970s. So this is what it looked like while it was, after it had been designated, and this is what it looks like now. We can't really see what the balusters look like, the front of the porch, because of the landscaping, but my big concern is the two gables, because that's fairly structural. I mean, and very visible.
Right. I'm looking at our minutes, and the motion to deny was made based on the fact that the roof had been altered significantly.
That came piece.
So does it seem to you all that the roof has been altered significantly?
Yeah.
Right, so we'll have to deny it.
Roof line, sort
Yes.
of the roof line, gable
Yes,
line.
we'll have to deny it then.
I mean, that's my opinion.
It has been.
That's my opinion,
I
but I mean,
understand.
there may be other people that,
Right, okay. Let's look at the roof. And if you feel it's been altered significantly, as we said at our previous meeting, we'll have to deny it.
It's been definitely altered.
we can
Beg pardon?
vote.
It's definitely been altered.
Yes, okay, that's right, okay. So are we clear on what we're to do? I have reconsidered it, or considered it, and I'm saying that the roof has been altered significantly, all right? So the chair would now entertain a motion again to approve it, and if the motion doesn't carry, it's been denied. All right, so is there a second?
Who made the motion to begin with?
What exactly is the motion?
I don't know.
The motion,
Motion to approve.
sorry,
Or
motion to
deny.
deny it.
The motion
Yes.
to deny.
I thought it was a motion to approve, and if it's not,
Then it's
if
denied.
it's not
It
passed.
can go either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So we
I
just-
think as a point of order, typically we would want to get someone not the chair to make the motion, and then we'll have a second and
Sure,
then vote.
okay. Someone other than chair,
I motion.
okay, all right. Second,
What's the motion? I'm sorry.
she didn't hear the motion.
I just heard motion.
Either one, it doesn't matter.
She's-
To deny.
The motion to deny,
To deny, we have
Yeah.
to have a reason.
right.
Or,
Okay.
or you can motion to approve, and we can,
And don't vote.
Don't
Yeah,
vote.
That's what he's saying, right.
is that what you're saying?
Okay, but she's saying a motion to deny, so when you vote, you'll be voting to deny it.
With a reason.
Yes. Okay.
Structural alterations.
Okay.
Deny with structural
Vote as a motion to deny.
alterations.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Is there a second
Second.
to deny?
Second.
All right, okay. All those in favor of denying this application, let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Number 6, Sean, you want to lead your discussion on this?
Yes, so I received contact from a representative from the Montgomery Housing Authority a few weeks back, and they're planning to construct a parking lot. We have some folks from the Housing Authority here who might be able to explain a little further what the project is, but basically they got a cultural resource survey report as part of this project, and there was an adverse effect found to 2 historic properties, the Cleveland Court Apartments and the Southern Pride Elks Lodge across the street. Because there was this adverse effect found, there's the requirement to go into Section 106 consulting process. The Alabama Historical Commission asked the Housing Authority to include the HPC as a consulting party. So that's why I placed this on the agenda. I wanted to have an opening discussion and kind of let you all know that this is ongoing. I'm working with the Housing Authority and Paul Van Fleet in our office, and we're in the very early stages of a negotiation process to find actions to mitigate this adverse effect. And this will result in a negotiated memorandum of agreement, MOA. There's also the requirement for public engagement, and the Housing Authority, or the Department of HUD rather, indicates that a local HPC is a good place, a good venue for public engagement. I don't think, we're not sort of not at that part yet, but I just wanted to have this opening discussion and let you all know that likely more information will be to come regarding this.
Okay.
So, right. Yeah, if you all want to just kind of, talk about the project,
yes.
Then we can.
Yes, in fact, if each of you love to come to the microphone, we'd appreciate it. Yes, to the podium here, and give us your name and give us a minute spiel, and then we'll give the other commissioners an opportunity to ask you one or two questions. Your name.
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Monica Whiting, representing the Housing Authority as the acting executive director, effective January 1st, 2025. So I'm relatively new to this, but really understand the importance of maintaining the historical significance of our community and making certain that we're all on the same page with regards to our efforts to better take care of our residents. I'm sorry, Kristen.
Okay.
Introduce.
Yeah, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Give us your name.
Yes, Kristen Moore, and I'm a representative of the Housing Authority, and I'm working along with Mr. Shun right now to get this plan off the ground as far as mitigating for the adverse effect at the Parks Place.
Okay. All right. Now, before you go, other commissioners, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to raise with them based on what you've read?
Could you explain the project a little more? It's a parking lot project, and it's at the Cleveland Court Apartments on Rosa Parks Avenue, and this is where Ms. Parks lived.
That is correct.
And so, what's happening with the parking lot?
So if you think about it, when Cleveland Court was originally built, it was built in an effort to house, of course, our residents who were a part of public housing. But during that time, everyone didn't have cars. Like all the people have cars nowadays. We have children that have cars. All the adults in our homes have cars. And so parking has become of issue to us. Also recognizing that we actually own the Cleveland Court, which is now called Parks Place, right. Housing community, and which is, of course, on the historical register. We recognize, again, the significance of maintaining the cultural as well as the historical significance, right. But we're trying to balance it with our needs right. for expanded right. parking spaces. Right. So we are looking at transforming some of the empty lots. I think it's about 0.3 of an acre is what the total amount would be that's on the perimeter into just parking spaces for our residents and their guests.
I want to note for some of the members of the HPC that Section 106 means that you're using federal money. This is federal money, and so it goes under review because this is a historic property that they're using the money for. So that's why we're seeing this. Does that make sense? Right? Yeah. So, I know the properties where I'm going. So, what are y'all taking up streetscape for angle parking, street lines on Columbia, or?
And I may have to defer to Chris Lennon, but I think they were vacant lots already, so undeveloped lots.
Behind you?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay, not yes. on the Rosa Park side.
Not there.
But on the west side.
It's around the perimeter of the property. So it's some that's on the
Speak to the microphone.
I'm sorry. There are some that's directly on Rosa Parks, and then there's some around the perimeter of the community.
So you're basically taking up green space for parking?
Correct.
Oh, thank you. So at the public hearings, we will actually see photographs and/or drawings? Okay.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and also there is on this, so the design is not done yet, is my understanding, for the parking lot, but there is an appendix to this agenda. If you look down below toward the very end, it does have the cultural resource report, and there are maps included on that. Let's see, page 12 of the appendix will have a map showing the lot that was surveyed, and it is currently just a vacant lot. It's my understanding there were residences there at one time, but currently it's just, just like a grassy lot.
Okay, what page is it? 82. Oh, page 82 for us. Okay. Oh, that's the whole report. Okay. Okay, thank you.
I have one question. I noticed that part of it involves the Elks Lodge. Now, that's literally across the street. So what impact is that going to have if you're using the property that's on the perimeter of Park Place?
Well, I think because when we got the archaeological survey done, the adverse impact stated that it would cause a visual impact because we're changing what that looks like. So, no buildings or anything that we're building, but from a visual standpoint, it would be impacted because it's in the sight line of the Elks Lodge as well as, of course, the Cleveland Court Apartments.
Okay, thank you.
Or Parks Place Apartments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Are there, the tenants who live there, are they allowed like 2 cars per family or anything like that?
Right now, we do have parking restrictions on the residents with regards to the number of cars that are allowed, but because so many people have moved in, we're at capacity, and more people have vehicles. Between them and their guests, they're just exceeding the parking allotments that we have currently and flowing over into the streets, unfortunately.
Do the tenants have like decals to say that they are residents?
They do have decals.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
So there's how many units in this?
I'm sorry?
How many units are in this complex?
We have, is it 100? I apologize for not knowing, but around 120.
And so how many parking spaces are there?
Right now, the number of parking spaces. It's not enough. I will say that it's certainly not enough.
I was just curious as to whether, if you had 120 units, does everybody have a parking space?
And that's the problem. We don't. Everybody does not have a parking space. Again, when they were originally built, it was built for the population of people at that time, where a lot of people didn't. We used public transportation and we didn't have vehicles of our own. But now, of course, times have changed and the needs of our residents have changed as a result of it.
And so I have another question. Are you, like, how many additional parking spaces do you think you might need? Are we talking? You don't know yet?
I'm sorry, that will be in our sketch.
That'll be later.
Yeah, I apologize.
I think the report calls out like approximately 50. The design is not complete yet, so I think that number is sort of, subject to change. But that's they have approximately 50 in the cultural resource report.
Thank you.
I do have another question. Is this a piecemeal approach, or is there a master plan for this space?
That is a part of our master plan. Of course, we're always looking at opportunities to better serve our residents, but it has been, I think this has been in the works for well over a year as a part of our master plan to impact our residents and serve them in a better way.
Any other questions, comments?
So are you thinking April we'll have the public meeting at this?
Yeah, that would be my ideal plan, would be to have, be further along with the negotiation side of things, and then we'll be able to advertise it for the public. I would probably reach out to our communications team and, try and get the word out a little bit about public engagement being available for this. And yeah, ideally at our April meeting, we can go ahead and get that part kind of checked off, and likely still be working on the MOA and kind of get that maybe for the next meeting and get that finished as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Before you,
I'm sorry.
before you take your seat,
Yes, sir.
let me just make one or two observations. I really appreciate the time that you all spent to come here this afternoon. Don't think we take your presence for granted one bit. We appreciate your having the kind of interest in Montgomery housing to come here before us. Seriously,
Thank you.
we take note of that. I'm serious. I want you to know that. And also take note of the kind of research these people did in that area. Right. And there were just one or two that had me squirming just a little bit.
Okay.
And one, and I'll just mention one, Lovely School was not the first black high school in the city of Montgomery. And I just want you to know that for future reference.
I'm taking notes, Dr. Bailey.
Yes, and there are a couple of others that are in here. And I just wondered, as I was reading this, who they had talked to give them that information. And the Bertha Williams Public Library, there's a lot of history in that space also.
Right.
I knew Bertha Williams and a couple other things, but that's not the point. If they just dig a little bit deeper, they would just have some good information. But this has nothing to do with the parking lot, if you get my drift.
Right.
This has to do with the report, to show the richness of African American history on that west side of town. Super rich.
Indeed.
And they just touched the surface here, but I love what they did because they took the time to do the research. And I just wish they had gone just one or two steps further. But that's not a criticism, that's an observation, because anytime, as far as I'm concerned, someone takes an interest in African American history, I applaud those people. I'm serious.
Indeed.
In fact, anytime you take an interest in history, period, I applaud it. Right. Because I want people to know, far and wide, that when it comes to history, we have it here in the great city of Montgomery. And the west side of town is just one area in which we have some rich, rich, rich history. And that's why I'm saying to you, I applaud you all coming out here this afternoon, because for me, it shows you care.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much for that feedback. We're definitely taking notes, and we'll make certain we do a better job partnering with.
You're fine, ma'am. Seriously. Like I said, anything a person does is better than zero.
Thank you.
You're right.
Thank
so
you
ought
so
to be
much.
applauded, not criticized.
We appreciate
Plus,
that.
I wouldn't do it anyway.
Thank you so
No,
much.
seriously, I love the fact that you all took time from your schedule to come here this afternoon. It means a lot to this commission. Don't think these people are not taking into consideration the fact that you all cared enough to come here and speak before us.
Thank you, thank you. This is important. This is important work, and we recognize that, and we just appreciate the time to hopefully address your concerns.
Right.
Thank
and let me
you.
just ask you one other question.
Yes, sir.
With what we're doing for this parking lot, are we setting a precedent here in the sense that will we do this for other areas of town, or is this just for this particular case?
Our goal is for this to be just for the benefit of our residents. Like I said, we care about the needs of our residents, and parking is especially important for us. We don't have adequate parking, but we want to do whatever we can to impact our residents while keeping, of course, the importance of the historical significance of the area in place. So I don't think we're setting a precedent, but we want to show that we're doing everything as a housing authority to impact the lives of our residents and do whatever we can to better serve them.
Mm-hmm. By precedent, I mean, will some agency do the same thing for other sections of town when it comes to renovating or whatever the case may be? Will somebody take that same kind of interest to do the research on the area?
Well, if they cared about their residents,
Yes.
they might. But you know, we're all about serving the least of these. You know, and the public housing residents are usually disenfranchised, overlooked, and sometimes just disregarded. And so we make an intentional effort in doing whatever we can to impact their lives in the best ways that we can. So, you know, if it's setting a precedent for somebody to go out and do something good for the least of these, then we'll proudly say that we hope that it's a precedent that's being set. But we don't necessarily foresee it unless we have other organizations that are mission-driven just like us.
Ma'ams, we meet here every other Tuesday, second Tuesday in the month. Whether you have a concern or not, you're welcome to our meetings, 5:30, and you can always feel welcome to come to the podium if you have something on your mind. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. We appreciate you all.
Thanks, ladies.
Okay.
Sean,
all right.
Does this, I see that there's a National Register nomination. Was it approved?
Yeah, for the, that it was approved. It's listed
In the National Register.
On the National Register for
But it doesn't have local designation, does it?
No, it does not.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, for the Parks Place apartment, it
Okay.
is listed. The Elks Lodge is not listed. It was determined eligible for the state register, and that was based on Paleo West did a bunch of work in the past, recent past, identifying a bunch of houses and other buildings. And so it was listed in that report as eligible. So once it is eligible, it doesn't have to be listed, it can just be eligible, and then we assume that it is listed.
But Park Place actually is listed.
That's right.
Okay.
And so part of the mitigation will likely be what the AHC called it state level documentation for the Elks Lodge.
Right.
And then possibly an updated nomination for the Parks Place or Cleveland Court
For the
apartments.
Alabama Register. Okay.
So we would likely have that as part of the MOA, and depending on, we sort of discussed having me possibly do some of that documentation work, which I'm fine with doing that. I have a few more questions for the AHC, you know, regarding that, to see if that is a thing that is kind of a normal practice, or if they would need to, if the housing authority would need to get like an outside consultant or something. But also just another thing I should point out that I did learn through this process talking with Mr. Van Fleet in our office is that the housing authority is essentially, it's an arm of the city government. So it's my understanding that the city will be like a signatory on it, not necessarily the housing authority. So I think that is how we're moving forward with it. Again, some of this I'm still kind of learning the process, and and we'll kind of work through that over time and get toward having a negotiated MOA finalized and everything. But we want to have that public engagement piece to inform, what mitigation actions we're including in the MOA.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 7, proposed updates to the HPC bylaws. What we would do with that, does anybody have any heartburns by any section of this? Is there anything you want to discuss? Anything you have a question about? Does it look good to you as it is? Any question about any changes?
I don't know. I think maybe we should.
We're here to discuss it. If you have any changes, if not, we will sign off on it as it's changed.
Can we table it till next time?
No, go right ahead.
Can we table it till next time?
Yes, we'll go
Okay.
right ahead.
Oh, so I
Yeah.
move we table it till
All right.
next time. Is that okay?
Okay.
April.
Is there any unreadiness on that? All those in favor that we table it until our April meeting, let me know by show of hands.
Dr. Bailey, can I get a second on that?
Yes. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Thank you.
And we'll make
Okay,
it
second.
make it
Okay.
a priority to.
Yes.
Read through it.
We got a second.
Got it.
Okay, good enough. Thank you very much. Number 8, discussion that Carol King and I had about historic preservation in the city. Carol, you want to lead off on that?
Well, we talked about, we need to talk about it more. One of the things we were were talking about were things that were kind of falling underneath the radar, that we weren't getting updates on, and we needed to start looking for things, starting, to be more proactive about it. And one of the things we talked about was, what's happening at St. Jude on Fairview Avenue. Seems like they're in a transitional phase right now with the closing of the school. And but what also, this is the 60th anniversary of the Southern Montgomery March coming up in a couple of weeks. And so I gave everybody a copy. This is, they've opened a new interpretive center in, I think, what was the convent behind the church. And they had a really nice guide on here that's a very good, nice history of Father Purcell, how the church came about, and how active they actually were in the 1950s and 60s in the voting rights movement, and how progressive they were. So I just wanted to draw a little bit of attention to it. And then in the very back, they've got a nice map. We've kind of been up there driving around, looking around. They've got sculpture gardens going in, and I think they're really kind of looking at themselves, sort of claiming their spot in the whole historic movement that happened actually there at the corner of Fairview Avenue and Oak Street. So this was just sort of a beginning for us to start looking at some places that we've kind of forgotten about, especially this time of year with it celebrating such a significant anniversary. So if anyone else comes up with some other thoughts on some other places to share too, so.
Okay. Any questions or comments regarding what she just said? During our discussion about 2 weeks ago, we were just concerned about the fact that we need to bring more people to have a real concern about historic preservation. Some of the places in Montgomery that are being demolished without any kind of public recognition of the historic value of those places. And one of the things that I love to talk about is what I call the Humpty Dumpty principle. Once you tear it down, I don't care what you put there, it won't replace what you've torn down. All the king horses and all the king men will never put that place back together again in terms of historic significance. So what we want to do, and I've talked to one of the council persons about this, is to come up with some kind of mechanism by which we can identify historic buildings, homes, or sites here in the city of Montgomery to make certain those sites, those buildings, those homes are not demolished. You'd be surprised when you move around Montgomery how many vacant lots that you might encounter. Ask yourself, the next time you see a vacant lot, what used to be there? Did it have any historic significance? And then if you do a little research and find out what had been there, you might want to go and sit down for a few minutes. Not only that, when you go back into our local history and you ask yourself, that beautiful house, that modern looking structure, what was there before that modern structure was built? And when you realize just how much history that nice looking house replaced, it might not give you such a good feeling after all. So what we want to do is to make certain that we have some kind of apparatus in place where we can identify the historic value of more structures in the city of Montgomery. And I was assured by that council person with whom I spoke that the city of Montgomery is listening to these kinds of pleas and is embarking upon methodologies for determining the historic value of places, homes, and sites here in the city. And I'm so happy to see you all here this evening because I think we have the kind of personnel here that really has an interest in historic preservation. So that's what Carol and I talked about 2 weeks ago. Okay? Any questions or comments so we can move right along?
Just a
Yes.
quick comment. When you had the conversation with the city council person, Was that offline or was that actually?
In person, in person.
I'm not saying, was it before the actual city council?
No,
Or
no.
was that you and that person
Yes.
offline? I would like to make a suggestion that we get on the agenda of the city council so that everybody know, because historic preservation affects all districts.
Okay.
So if we get on the city council agenda and let them know as a commission, as a body, that we're interested in them, putting something in place, then from the mayor to every city council person, we know where our interest is. And then maybe they can come up with a suggestion on how we can come up with a system where if we give them a list of, and I know it's going to require a little work, but if we give them a list of places, of addresses that may still be in place. It's just an old house, but it's still standing. And if we say, such and such address on Hall Street, has a historic significance, then now they can put something in place with that property owner that you can't demolish it. You can't. Is that what you're saying that needs to be done?
Yes.
You have that in place. You can designate the property. So you have that mechanism in place.
right now.
If you see a property that you believe should be preserved and protected, you can nominate it for local historic designation.
Is there some type of, if there's going to be a demolition of a particular structure in the city, is there one place that demolition has to be registered?
No.
If there's a demolition of a structure in the city, is there one office where that demolition has to be registered?
Yes.
Let me just not caution you, but when I was the preservation officer in Miami, and when I was the preservation officer in Coral Gables, every demolition had to be reviewed by the preservation officer to determine if the property had historic significance.
Right.
The preservation officer, well, number one, in Miami, that added to my workload significantly. Because if the preservation officer has to review a property for significance every single time a property is up for demolition, that could be 20, 30 a month. So that is a huge amount of work to put on someone. The other thing is as well, it can lead to legal challenges because someone applies to demolish the property, the city steps in and says, hey, this is significant, we are going to designate it. We did that in Coral Gables a lot, but it did lead to a lot of legal challenges. The main question being, if this house was so important, why did the city not designate it 15 years ago? Why did you wait until I submitted the demolition application? So there is a mechanism by which it can be done by, but you should just be aware of what it can lead to. Number one, a huge amount of work for the preservation officer. Number two, concerns from property owners who wish to demolish properties. Number three, what if the property is in a dangerous condition and it has to come down? So I think it's a good thing, but it does require some thought as to how that mechanism is going to work effectively. So maybe it's something that requires further discussion.
But Dr. Robinson, if it's designated, it gets flagged.
Right.
If it's in a district,
Yeah.
in other words, if it's maybe on the outskirts, but if it is in a designated a local historic district, like say the edge of Cottage Hill, or the edge of Centennial Hill's not designated. They're a National Register, but they're not local designated. But then its address is, and it comes up for a demolition permit. It's flagged and it will go before the ARB. Yeah. It's all of these other houses that are not in designated areas.
I'm thinking specifically of the J.W. Jones house, the John W. Jones house.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about.
I rode by one day and it was gone, and I felt
Yeah.
So that a loss about that.
But
my query is, and you've had some experience along these lines. Has it been that it's incumbent upon the preservation officer to do the research on the property, or is that something that the applicant who is seeking to have a structure demolished, can they have a questionnaire that they fill out in terms of when the building was constructed and the like?
No, the way it worked in Florida was it was the preservation office, because the property owner just wants it gone. Mm-hmm. They may not be an expert in research or architectural history or historic preservation or history. So this was something that both Miami and Coral Gables had in their code that said all demolitions must be reviewed by the preservation officer prior to demolition. And let's be honest, there are a lot of properties here which do have historic significance in the true sense of the word. A simple wood frame shotgun home, which is in relatively poor condition, more than likely does have historic significance according to our code. You could make a case for it based on architectural significance and possibly historic significance as well. But the problem is, if you get 10 or 20 of these every single month, how do you filter through and target only those ones that are of real significance when so many structures in this city do have, in my opinion, real significance?
And I would just comment from my perspective, this is part of the issue where we have buildings being demolished with essentially no review of the historic aspect, is that designations in this city have been stagnant for a number of years. And this is something that Warren and I both have expressed to you all in the recent past, and I would like to very much accelerate that and designate more places. That's something that is very top of mind for me. I had to do a little bit of background work before I had to sort of put the South Hole designation on pause a little bit and do some other problem-solving work, which is nearing the completion. So we do have a new neighborhood that has asked to be designated, so that's really my priority because they've asked. So that's about another 400 properties, and if they are designated, then essentially any alterations, and that includes a demolition, would need to go to the ARB for their approval. And so once I'm able to get that finished and bring that neighborhood to you all for consideration, I hope that we're able to get that designated, and then we would look at, my next thing after that would be, I have a list of individual buildings that have come up, City Hall actually being one of them, as a potential building to be designated. And so that's just one example. I have a working list, and if you all have more that you know of, certainly bring those to us. We want to hear that input. That's why I worked so hard in the last year to get this board filled, to get the vacancies filled, and I'm happy to have you all here. So we want to work together and develop a systematic inventory plan, right? A method for which we're going to look at contexts, we're going to look at themes, and do systematic work to inventory what we have in the built environment here. So I think that's the method that we need to use. Everything, I'm a staff of one, so that is a factor here, but if you all are willing, I'm happy to show you how to do architectural survey work. We can work together on getting that done and sort of have you all fill in a little bit on the staffing side of things if we can do that, and just be creative with it. But I think that's the way to go, and to develop a system for, we survey this many buildings each year, we look at this theme, and I think that's the way to go forward. And then we would have that sort of regular cadence to doing a survey, researching the building, bringing it before the board to consider, and then getting that to City Council for their action. by ordinance, because that is really the protection piece. And, you know, another thing, just, I mean, you know, the designations that we have, you know, they could use some increased diversity, let's just say that. And so that is, yeah, that's what we're, I think, all working toward. That's what I'm thinking of each day. And I just want to impress that upon you all as well, that the designations have been sort of stagnant. The last individual building that was designated in this city was in 1989. And to me, that's bizarre. So, and, you know, there were other things happening. Districts were designated during the 90s and into the 2000s. So we were getting districts, you know, designated, so that's great. But there are many more individual buildings and likely other neighborhoods as well. Centennial Hill being one of them that I would be very much interested to get into the community, right? That's where having you all here as community ambassadors will be very important, to get folks and to get their buy-in to the process, you know.
Okay.
Now, one thing that may be possible is it may be that we could possibly get a weekly list from the building department as to what properties we have a demolition request for. And we may be able to narrow that list down to something like all buildings over 80 years old that are flagged, and try and at least focus on the most significant ones. So there may be a method to track the demolitions, which would allow us to possibly step in for really the most important ones. We can certainly look into that. So all buildings up for demolition over 75 years old, and maybe there's a way to just track the list, but it is going to put a significant amount more work onto Sean. So I would suggest, if this is something that's going to move forward, you push for more staff for us as well, because that's one of the most effective ways of getting it done, having the staff in place that can at least monitor and track and designate and push forward. So we're very conscious of the fact that we do need more staff, so all of your support would be a big help in that as well.
Okay, all right. I think I can say, bottom line, we are just interested in ensuring the presence of some kind of mechanism whereby if a home, building, or whatever were demolished or about to be demolished, the person couldn't just willy-nilly just go over there and tear it down. If there was some kind of form that a person would have to complete certifying that this whatever has no historic value, I think that would cause us to feel that we can sleep at night. It's okay to have a list of designated places, but that means that someone has gone by there and certified this place as one with historic significance. But what about those that have historic significance that somebody just doesn't know about?
Yeah.
We're concerned about those too.
Exactly, but if you get 30 of them a month, that is 30 properties that require some form of research for historic significance.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reason I'm asking if we're possible, but we could just have a form with the city that a person would have to complete to certify this whatever has no historic significance. Instead of that person just, as I said, waking up one morning and say, I want to tear this building down, I want to demolish this house, I can call in a crew, and that crew can do it, and there's no oversight whatsoever. That's where we are.
I do again hate to say, though, that most homeowners, property owners would have no idea whether their property had significance or not.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but you said something earlier that that might be of help here, at least if that you talk about flagging those properties that are at least older than a certain, older than a certain date.
Yeah.
So then they may rise to the top of the list.
Something like that may be possible, and we can look into it. Yeah.
Is that a conversation that we can have in a sense of, you know, to work through that, to see what that looks like specifically? Because I think this is a board that can be proactive, and whatever that looks like in a conversation between all of us can help, like, going forward, and then invite people, the public, to come down and share their thoughts as well.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let's continue this conversation and see if we can put some muscle into our concern here. And Sean, you want to lead us on Appendix C?
Yeah, and just like, I guess, a closing comment on that, I do think that would be a smart idea to have, you know, the designation piece that I was discussing on the front end, and then to have some kind of review on the back end of a possible demolition. You know, we just would need to make, you know, give some thought to what's realistic, what can we handle, and, you know, how to do it, you know, appropriately. So I'll follow up with this on the next month's agenda, or the next meeting agenda, and Warren and I can discuss a little bit strategically and try to come up with something for that. I do think that's smart. Moving on to the last item here that we have is the appendix item. This is for the draft ARB design guidelines. They're being revised, and this is at the back end of the guidelines is a blurb for each historic district. The one on the agenda today is Cottage Hill and the Cottage Hill Annex. So this is just the blurb that will appear. It's, you know, it's sort of complete. If you all have any comments, I'm happy to revise things. If you see something that's a glaring error or anything that I've missed, a lot of this was drafted before me, but I have gone in and, you know, kind of cleaned some things up and edited a little bit. So yeah, it's mostly just so you all can see and provide any comments that you may have.
Okay. Thank you very much. Staff updates?
Just one, well, I have one very quick one. At the end of last year, I was asked by Councillor Riley to submit a grant application for the Underrepresented Communities Grant for a National Register survey and potential nomination for Carver Park and Mobile Heights. I'm happy to see that we were awarded the full $75,000. So everything should hopefully be moving ahead. The only question I would raise is, you probably all heard recently under the current administration what is happening with a lot of the funded grant projects. So while we have been awarded the $75,000 for the survey, it remains to be seen as whether the administration will allow that grant to continue. So bittersweet news there. We got the money, but we don't know what's going to happen with it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else?
To some of the comments that you were making down there, our preservation leadership this year seminar that we have in May at Landmarks, we're partnering with the city back again, and this year we're going back to our original thought process 6 years ago, where each Wednesday night we will focus on neighborhood histories, how they were developed, and also the historic districts, the existing historic districts, as well as the architectural styles, and then working with the city on the guidelines within the historic districts too. So this is a good educational opportunity for, you know, all the new folks and updates and folks who are thinking about buying in a historic district too, you know, so all the ins and outs of that. So that'll be in May. It'll be every Wednesday night, and we'll have, in April, I'll have more information for you in April.
Okay. All right, to our other commissions, anybody has anything going on you'd like to bring to our attention? Any upcoming event you'd like to bring to our attention?
In March,
yes,
it's the 60th anniversary of the 7th Montgomery March, so just be on the lookout for information in terms of activities.
It's everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you'd like to bring to our attention? Anybody? Feel free. Okay. To our City of Montgomery staff, thank you very much for coming out tonight. To our other commissioners, thank you to our security people, our videographer. Thank you so much for your patience and your expertise. This meeting is hereby adjourned.